Hey guys, Doug here from Motion Raceworks. Today's Tech Tip Tuesday, we're talking about selecting the correct catch can for your ride. If you hadn't already seen, last week we released our new active two-stage catch can. And to the untrained eye, or even some trained eyes, these two look identical, but they're wildly different. The main thing we took between our traditional race-style catch can, which is just an open free flow system with baffling, and our new active two-stage catch can is the layout and design. The top loader design, the billet construction, and the filter top with the clockable mounting has been a home run for this catch can. It makes it more usable, the lines route easier, and it's just very appealing to the eyes. So that is basically the base we started with. From there, there's really no crossover. I'm going to show you the differences between the two and talk about how and where you would use the different two options depending on how your ride's built and what your goals are for it. If you take, for example, Bubba's Nova, this is the 72 Nova that we did an LSA 480 swap in. We built this, I think, back in 2020 and 2020 or 21. And when we did it, our billet catch can was a few years old. It's a great option for something like this. It's really as simple as it gets when you're plumbing it. You basically take a line from each valve cover, preferably a baffle line pickup. So like we're using our billet LS valve covers, they have baffles underneath of them. And you're running one line into each side of the catch can. And then from there, the two lines basically knock the oil out of suspension in the air through baffles, and then out the top, it's just free flowing and constantly what I call an open element. So that allows the engine to breathe, not build crankcase pressure, which can be, detrimental to having seal failure, having leaks. It kills horsepower, and it's just a number of performance advantages to having a catch can in an open PCV system. This particular vehicle doesn't really have any fumes, so to speak of. Different engines and different platforms tend to have a different set of circumstances. For example, we have an S197 at our shop. We put this catch can on it, and the fumes were actually overcoming. I don't know if it's because the car was sealed up better, but it kind of seemed to make a lot more crankcase pressure and have a lot more fumes and oil and everything than a traditional LS or even an LSA does. So that led us to the desire to create a sealed catch can system, as we call it, or an active two-stage catch can that acts as an oil separator under normal driving so that you don't smell the fumes inside of the car. But then on a car that's built for performance, it'll still vent it like this one when the conditions indicate it needs to happen. So to show you the differences, I'm just going to pop these cans open and you'll see how complex the new active two-stage can is versus the old one. And this one is still a great option. I'm still going to run it on a lot of my vehicles, but if there's a situation like that S197 where the fumes are overcoming and you just want a more refined vehicle, this is going to probably be a better option for you. Like I said in the beginning, they're very situational. Anything very race-oriented is still going to get this catch can. To further complicate things, or to further maybe confuse you, when we released this new active two-stage catch can, we released two pictures. One with this top, which is our sealed system top. This would go right back to your intake, and then one with a filter. We want to give you guys options. We want to put tools in your toolbox so that you can utilize whatever makes sense for your build the most. This is the same catch can. As you can see on the top, they're both built the same. Vacuum line here, crankcase here. Like I said, basically the top is the only difference. I'll get into that here shortly. All right, so this is our traditional race catch can. Like I said, it's very simple. It's a container with baffling, and the air comes in these two ports, goes through the baffling, comes out this. So I'll unscrew this so you guys can see the difference internally. A lot of these catch cans, traditionally the race ones, had no baffling in them, so you tend to see very wet filters. This thing's been a very, the baffling we spent a lot of time on, and has been very revolutionary to a lot of people because it keeps these filters dry, but vents the system great and flows without issue. Sheet metal baffling inside of this thing creates a very effective knockdown of the oil without blocking the flow of the air that's going through it. So that's our traditional one. You can see the catch can's hollow on the inside. Very simple and straightforward. Two 10 ORB fittings. There's no check valve or anything in them. And then obviously a drain at the bottom, filter on top. All right, onto our active two-stage catch can. these actually have a check valve in the top of them so that the crankcase doesn't go back into the intake. And then as we unscrew the bottom, you'll see a very much more complex baffling system. This portion in here has multiple chambers inside, which help knock the oil out of suspension while sealing the vacuum so that your engine still operates as it would normally under normal driving conditions. You can see there is some material in there to keep the oil from becoming resuspended, and yeah, it's a lot more complex. I won't dive into too much of that, but very much different. On this particular catch can, it's also billet, of course, and still has our clockable mounting, so that's nice. And then the lines are also at the top so that your line routing can be the same, but you'll see that you hook a vacuum line up to one, that'll be up on the intake, and then your crankcase, so this would be a line that comes directly from a valve cover, will come into here, and then you'll have a clean air from your intake air tube into your engine like you would from the factory, and that creates a flowing system. So basically the concept on this is that under normal driving, the oil is going to come in through here. It's obviously being pulled by vacuum. It's going to get knocked out of suspension. Under a situation where the crankcase pressure overcomes the vacuum, the crankcase pressure is actually going to overcome this valve on the top. This is going to release the pressure out this connection here, or like I said before, if you want an absolutely no fume system, this will redirect it back into the intake just like the factory one would. But in our opinion, it's a lot more complex baffling and is going to do a lot better job of keeping oil out of the intake of your vehicle, especially high performance vehicles. I will note that this top will go on the top of any of our catch cans like this. So it can technically create a situation where you can have a sealed system or you can vent this not in the engine compartment. It's, again, another tool for you guys to use when creating a PCV system for your hot rod. All right, so the last thing you might see is a little bit different. It says vacuum and crankcase on the top. Our race can does not, because both of these are coming from the valve cover. This is a barb fitting. Typically vacuum lines are barb style hoses. Of course, you can convert to AN if you want, but we have 10 ORB AN fittings in 6/8-10, and then we have vacuum lines in 3/8, half, and 5/8 inch. And then we have the quick connects that go on your engine as well. All right, so you might ask yourself, well, I have either Motions or somebody else's vented catch can. I want to add this. And it might seem kind of daunting. Number one, you can give our sales reps a call. They're very versed in this, in a lot of the engine platforms, I should say, not all of them. You might trick us with something. But we are happy to help you lay out the fittings and all that stuff to make this very effective for you. So as I mentioned earlier, this has a line off each valve cover into this. So if we were converting this vehicle, we would use a fitting to go right into the cold air intake of sorts on this thing. And that would be a fresh air line that would go from here to the valve cover on this side. We would remove the line that goes to the catch can on that side. And that is going to basically be where the fresh air is drawing into your engine. Of course, it's filtered here. And then we're going to take the other line. So the other valve cover is going to connect directly to this crankcase line right here. And then this vacuum line is going to route from here to the vacuum side of your intake, whether it's supercharged or naturally aspirated. It's going to be pre all of that. And like I said before, there's a check valve, so you guys don't have to put an inline check valve for the PCV or anything like that. So that simplifies it even further. And it's very simple. So like I said, we have some diagrams on the listings for this catch can. If you have further questions, we're happy to help you with all the layout and all that stuff. The last thing we can do is we can take the line from here and run it directly back into the intake, and basically that is going to allow you to not have any smell whatsoever. You're going to have a true sealed catch can. And when I say active two-stage on these, I mean that it's an oil separator under normal driving, and under spirited driving it vents out the top. Now whether you put that back in the intake or put it out a filter is completely up to you and the purpose and desire you have for your build. So you might be asking yourself, Why would I buy the more expensive, more complicated catch can over the race style catch can? Well, in a race style catch can, it's really just that. In racing, we typically try to do the things the simplest way without any holdups and any lack of flow or anything like that. In a race can, we're trying to get the pressure out of the engine and capture it, and we don't really care about smell. With the active two-stage catch can, we are trying to take a factory style PCV system and capture the oil. The factory PCV systems don't do a very effective job at that. Typically, they almost go right back from the valve covers into the intake. Occasionally, they might have like a little container where it drains back into the oil pan, but most of all, especially on some of the direct injected engines, that oil is redirected right back into the engine, which creates a filmy, nasty intake, which is bad for performance, fuel mileage, all that stuff. And then on top of that, if you have a DI engine, you're caking the engine, the intake side of the valve, with a bunch of crusty oil that can't be washed off with a fuel injector because the fuel injector is right in the combustion chamber. And if you're familiar with DI engines, that seems to be a fast killer of those engines, which is never a good thing. And I've even seen it on LS engines. You pull the intake off and it's just completely crusted inside with dried and burnt oil. So in my opinion, if you're building something that you like to drive a lot, this is a good insurance policy, and it's going to improve all of that. And it's going to allow you to have the flexibility to plumb it however you want. All right, guys, so now you know the differences between an open system catch can and our active two-stage catch can. They're both tools for building a hot rod and creating it to operate and perform how you want it to perform. If you have questions on which is best for yours or how you want it to perform, give us a call. We're happy to help, and we can help you plumb it. We can talk you through it. We have multiple versions of this race can, including a single big fitting style and then this dual style. And then obviously we have the active two-stage with a variety of fittings and layout options. So if you do have questions, give us a call. Otherwise, check out our website. I'll put the link down in the description below. That'll show you guys all of our options, all of our fittings, all of our attachments, as well as valve covers and all that stuff to help freshen up your engine for your build. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this Tech Tip Tuesday kind of explained the difference between two styles of catch cams. There's many of them out there on the market. I feel like there's a lot of confusion. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.